Hello everyone! Today I'm going to show you how to use Nearpod. If you're not familiar with Nearpod, Nearpod is an app that helps make presentations interactive for students. It is great. I love using Nearpod. On Nearpod, you control the presentation so you can decide what you want your students to see and get feedback in real time. It's great. So let's go ahead and get started on everything we're going to cover today. So the first thing I want to say is that this is a tutorial for beginners. If you don't know anything about Nearpod, then this is a great video for you to watch. If you're new to Nearpod or just want to learn more about it, we're just going to be covering the basic tools and features that Nearpod has. The second thing that we are covering is Nearpod on the desktop and on the iPad. We're going to look at Nearpod on the desktop and the iPad both and kind of compare and see the differences between using Nearpod on the two different devices. The third thing we're going to talk about is Nearpod features and examples. I'm going to show you an example of a completed Nearpod with several of the Nearpod features built into it. And we're also just going to look at creating a Nearpod from scratch and how to put in those Nearpod features that your regular presentation doesn't have. And the fourth thing we're going to be covering is connecting Nearpod with Google Slides. So how to transfer your Google Slides directly into Nearpod. So if you don't want to learn how to create a slideshow presentation on a brand new platform, then you don't have to do that. If you're familiar with Google Slides already, there's a great way for you to just transition your Google Slides over to your Nearpod, and it'll save you a lot of trouble. And then you can add in all the Nearpod features that Google Slide doesn't have. So while I'm on that topic, let me go ahead and show you how to transfer your Google Slide over to Nearpod. So I'm actually just going to use this presentation right here. If you go to the top left of your screen where the toolbar is, you'll see a tab called Add-ons. So click Add-ons. Now I already have Nearpod as an add-on on my Google Slides, but you may not. So you'll go down to the button that says Get Add-ons and click that. And then it'll pop up almost like an app store. So Nearpod may be on the featured ones for you, but if not, you can just search it and it'll pop up. Now mine's already installed, but yours won't be, so you will just click install, and it may take a few minutes, but it should pop up now under add-ons. So now after you make your slideshow presentation in Google Slides, when it's complete and you're ready to move it over to Nearpod, you can just click Nearpod and then open Nearpod. And then this little menu on the right side of your screen will pop up. Okay, sorry, I had to move my camera so you could see this part of the screen. So you can just click the button in the bottom right corner that says Save and go to Nearpod. I've already saved this presentation in Nearpod, so I'm just going to flip over to Nearpod and show you what will happen. Once you click Save and go to Nearpod, it'll open a new tab for you to Nearpod, and you should see it pop up on the top here. This is my Nearpod account, so I have a bunch of other ones on here too. So when I hover over this one, we can do live plus participation on Zoom, live participation, student paste. I can edit it or I can preview it. So right now I'm just going to preview it so you can see what it looks like. So you'll see your preview of your presentation pop up, and you can click through the slides. Looks just like your Google slide. It's awesome. So it has an option on here for live participation. Now the great benefit about using Nearpod instead of just a regular slideshow presentation like Google Slides is that it has the live participation option, which means that students can have your slideshow on their device, whether that be a desktop, laptop, iPad, tablet, anything. So you can also have the slideshow presentation up front on the screen, but students can also view it on their device at the same time as you're going through it. Now, that doesn't just mean that you're giving them access to your presentation and they can flip through it. It means that you are controlling the slideshow presentation, so they just sit back and watch, and as you flip the slide, it flips the slide on all their devices as well. They cannot fast forward through the slides and, get off track. You're the one still controlling the slideshow presentation, which is awesome. So if you click live participation, it'll pop up a code, and they'll go to join.nearpod.com or in the app, and then they'll type in the code. And you can also turn this on and make this a Zoom meeting, so this is very compatible with Zoom as well. I know there are some teachers out there that are doing hybrid classes, so if you have kids that are in person and online, Nearpod is awesome for kids on Zoom too. And then as you're going through this, the code will stay up in the top left corner just in case you have a student that accidentally exits out of the Nearpod. And then whenever you're done, you can just click the back button. Now, here's the part where you can change it from a Google Slide to a Nearpod. You can click the Edit feature. So it's going to take you back to your Google Slide presentation. Now, remember how we pulled up the Nearpod add-on? It has the little toolbar on the side for Nearpod. So it'll pop up and say, you've already saved this lesson in Nearpod, do you want to go to Nearpod? And we're going to click Edit this lesson. So then you'll see all of these options pop up, and you can actually scroll down, there's several, of how you can customize this to make it a Nearpod presentation. Now, there's a ton of different options, but let me just briefly go over them. You can add audio, a BBC video, collaborate board, draw it, field trip, fill in the blank, Flipgrid. Flipgrid is another app if you're familiar with that. Matching pairs, memory test, Nearpod 3D. Nearpod 3D and field trips are kind of similar. Open-ended question, PDF viewer, polls, quizzes, simulations, slideshows, sway, time to climb, videos, and web content. So you can put things like videos, web content, things like that into Google Slides, but there is some options on here that Google Slides doesn't have. Like Draw It is one of them that I really like. So if we click Draw It, it will pop up and you're going to edit this like it's a slideshow. Now you can upload a background image or you can just leave it blank. And then you can put your instructions up here. Now, before I start diving in on how to create all this stuff, let me show you an example first, and that might help make things a little bit easier. So let me exit out of this and let me go back to my Nearpod. So I'm going to pull up this Nearpod that I already have made, and it's going to show you some features on Nearpod that Google Slides doesn't have. So let me preview it. Okay, so let me put this in full screen so you can see it a little bit better. So of course Nearpod has interactive activities. So this may look like a picture at first, but I can drag it around. It's actually, I believe this one is a virtual field trip. So I can look underneath the water, and then I can look above the water too. This is really cool. Yeah. So that's one example. Another example is an open-ended question. So how much experience do you have with Nearpod? So I think I had pulled up the Draw It one, but you can see that it has a place for you to type your instructions in the top, and then students can enter their answer. So when students have this presentation on their own device, when the slide pops up, then they can enter their answer. And then of course you as the teacher get feedback of what all of the answers they put were. Okay. Then this one is actually Draw It. So circle any rectangles that you see. So the mouse automatically becomes a pen, and students can circle the rectangles that they see. Pretty cool. I like that one. Now, fill in the blank. So a blank describes a noun or blank. So you can drag these and put it in the boxes. This one is, of course, an ELA example, but I really liked this one. And then Nearpod versus PowerPoint. So this is, I believe this one's called a discussion board or something similar to that. So basically, students can go down here and share their thoughts. And then it pops up, and it's like a little live discussion board. So all the students, their things they type popped up, and then you can go up here and like their post that they put. It's pretty cool. I like that a lot. Okay, and this one's a poll. So this one you can make pretty much just like a multiple choice question. What's your favorite season? Summer. And then it gives feedback to the teachers, what everyone chose. Okay, and then this one's a memory test. You guys are probably familiar with what that is. Then you can embed a quiz in here. So you can see that quiz popped up, but you can see up here at the top left, it's one of 3 questions. So we've got some quiz questions on here. Okay, so now let's talk about some applications in subject-specific areas. Ooh, this is a great one. So this one isn't, this one's not the virtual field trip. This one's, I think it's called Nearpod 3D. But basically you can pick something and it gives you like a 3D version of it. So you can use this feature for social studies, math, science, ELA. I think you can use this for anything. So that one's pretty cool. And then I also have an example on here for science. You can see how I can turn this cell around and see all the different parts of it. It's really cool. Oh, and then this is an interactive simulation. So it looks just like, a graph, but I can actually move this line around. Let's see. Yes, and you can see as I'm moving it, the equation numbers are changing as well. I think this one is so awesome to use for math. I really like this one a lot. Now, up here in the top left, match the correct word to part of speech. Draw left quickly to feed the hungry dogs at home. Bark, exclaimed the dogs when he opened the door. Okay, so I actually had to pause this for a second and make sure that I understood how to do this one, and I did. I figured it out. So basically it's similar to the matching one, but like you click one, like I'm going to click noun, then I'm going to click the name Drew, because Drew is a person, place, or thing. So you're basically matching them to each other. So that's how to do that one. And then the last feature is you can actually insert another presentation into your Nearpod presentation, which is like, I know, kind of crazy. But you can see here that I've got this presentation on Seesaw, but then you can see the slides on the left side of the screen, yet I'm still in my Nearpod presentation. So I can scroll through this other presentation while I'm in Nearpod. It's really crazy. I think it's so cool. But anyways, that is the end of this Nearpod presentation, so I'm just going to escape out of that. So hopefully that gave you an idea of what some of the features look like without me just creating all of them from scratch. So hopefully you kind of get an idea. So let's go back to our Nearpod presentation. So again, over here on the right hand side, that's where all those examples I just showed you, that's where they all come from. So we saw draw it, we saw field trip, fill in the blank, matching pairs, memory test, Nearpod 3D, open-ended questions, polls, quizzes, the simulations, those were in there. So the simulations, Nearpod 3D, and virtual field trips are all three kind of similar, but I think you could probably tell the differences between the different ones. So yeah, the simulation was the math question. The virtual field trip was like being in the water. And then the Nearpod 3D was like the one like the cell, if that makes sense. So they're a little bit different, but they are similar for sure. And then you can see here slideshow. You can actually directly insert another slideshow presentation into your already presentation, which I think is so crazy. But yeah, You can insert videos, web content, so you have lots of options of things that you can put in your Nearpod. So let's go ahead and practice one. Let me go up to Draw It because that's what I was going to do before. And I'm just going to walk you through on how to put one of these Nearpod features in your presentation. So of course the instructions are optional, but they're up here on the top left. So let's say circle the rectangles. And I'm just going to copy the one that I already had in the other presentation just so you get the idea. You can actually add a timer if you don't want your kids to drag it out. Sometimes they like a race. If there's a timer, they like to be the first one done, but you can add a timer if you want there too. You can add media, video, or audio instructions, which is really cool, but I'm just going to stick with the written ones. And then you can upload a background image. So when you click that, it'll pop up. You can upload an image from your computer, your Drive, Dropbox, Cloud, or you can just search Google. So usually what I do for my presentations anyways is just search something on Google, save it, and then insert it. But this makes it easier because you can just search right here. So I'm just going to type in shapes. And let's find one that the shapes aren't labeled. So I'll click that one. Then click save. Awesome. So it inserted right in there for me. Oh, it's going to let me crop it. I can rotate it if I wish. Or flip it. Can zoom in or out. I think that looks pretty good. So we're going to click save. May take it a second to load. And there it is. So click edit this slide in the plugin to make changes. So over here on the right hand side, if I click edit this slide, that's how I can go in and edit the picture or edit the instructions. But otherwise, this is how it's going to look for you in Google Slides. And once you've got all your questions added that you want to add, you can just click save and go to Nearpod. I just want to show you what it looks like after you've added a Nearpod question to your Google Slides, and then once you move it over to Nearpod, what it looks like. Because obviously it's not going to look like this in Nearpod. So it may take it just a second to load. Great, so let's click preview. Okay, so it looks like how our presentation was. Go to full screen. Yep, so now you're in here in Nearpod and you're on this slide, and yep, I can just circle stuff. Awesome. And see how easy that was? Okay, so let's get out of here. Let me just press escape. And let's go back. So again, this is what it's going to look like for you on Google Slides, but on Nearpod it'll actually pop up as the Draw It feature. So, if we want to add more, open Nearpod. Edit this lesson. So there's a bunch of other features that you can add on here. I'm not going to go through all of them because that would take a really long time. But hopefully you get the picture and just kind of play around with these features and just figure out the different stuff that you could do. Hopefully the example that I had already made for you kind of helped to give you an idea of what each of these different features can do, rather than me just going in and creating each one of these. So yeah. Hopefully that gave you a brief overview of some of the features that Nearpod has. And now we're going to switch over and look at what Nearpod looks like on the iPad. Okay, so let's take a look at what the Nearpod app looks like on the iPad. So I'm going to go ahead and open Nearpod. And then I'm just going to sign into my account. It's my Google account. So it has this dashboard that pops up. You have My Library, Explore, Join, Create, and Reports. So my library is, of course, where all your Nearpods are. Then you can explore. There's actually lots of free Nearpods that other teachers and just other people have created and put on Nearpod, so you can look those up. You can join another Nearpod, create a brand new one, and then you can see your reports from Nearpods that you have from your students. So if you have, of course, like a live Nearpod going and students answer questions on a quiz or give feedback, then you can actually go back and look the reports later to help you kind of guide your teaching and instruction. So for now, let's just go to my library. And you can see the same presentation that we had. So it looks pretty similar on the iPad. I'll hit preview so we can see. So if you want to walk around the room and be more interactive with your students, you can actually control your Nearpod from your iPad as well. So I'll just flip through it. Pretty similar. Boop. Exit it out. So again, there's live participation, and then I don't know if I mentioned or not, but there's also student paced. If you want the students to go through the Nearpod presentation at their own pace, then that's an option as well. So let me go back to the menu. Now, something that I really wanted to show you on here is the create option. When you click create, it says you will be redirected to Nearpod content tool on your browser. So you hit go. So you actually can't really edit your Nearpod presentation in the app. It's just going to take you to Safari. So even though you can do it on the iPad, it's actually probably easier for you to just do it on the desktop. Either one will work, but since it just takes you straight to the Safari on your iPad, you may be just better off doing it on your desktop. So here's just what a blank Nearpod presentation looks like. You can add your slides. And one difference that I really wanted to point out on the iPad is when you, let me go back. When you click add slide, it's separated between content and then there's another tab of activities. When we viewed it on the desktop on Google Slides, it's all just kind of one big thing that you scroll through. But on the iPad, it's separated into two different categories. So I just wanted to point that out. And then let me go back. So Explore, let's just briefly look at Explore. You can see there's tons on here, and you can even search, like if I want to see a Nearpod on shapes. It'll pull up Nearpods that other teachers have already made that you can use for free. It's awesome. So let's go back to the main menu. And then reports, I don't think I have any reports, but it'll take you to your browser if you want to view those. And then join, of course, to join a Nearpod. Let me go back to my library and look at this presentation. Now, let's say I want to edit this presentation. Yeah, so it's still just going to bring up Nearpod on the Safari. So you can see I can move these around. This is the other cool feature about Nearpod as well, is you can just kind of drag and drop the slides whichever place that you want them. I think that's really cool. But yeah. So you can still add slides just like you would on the desktop. We'll just click save and exit. And then once you click save and exit, it'll ask you to open the Nearpod app back up. It's kind of annoying that it switches between Safari and the Nearpod app. Hopefully in the future they'll make this so you can just stay on the app the whole time. It'll probably prevent some confusion, but for now that's how things are anyways. Okay, and then the last feature that I want to show you about Nearpod, and this is pretty much the same on the desktop, but I didn't point it out when I was going over a Nearpod on the desktop. In the bottom left corner, you'll see a share button. You can click that. You can email it to people. You can do it on social. I think it's like Twitter and stuff you can share it to. You can embed it, or the one that I like to use is just the link one. So copy link. And I usually just use the link to share it with people, so I can email them the link, or if I want to put it on my Google Drive so I can share it with other people. I really just like using the link if I want to share my Nearpod with somebody else, but that I think is the easiest way to share it with other people. So yeah. Okay, so that's all I had for you guys today. Hopefully that gave you a pretty good idea of what Nearpod is like on the desktop and on the iPad. And hopefully you have a little bit better of an idea now of how to make a Nearpod using Google Slides, and just how to make your presentations more interactive for your students. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!